story begins inside a quiet little church where many people have gathered to attend the funeral of a young mutant who was killed recently in a bizarre accident. Among these people were even the X-Men like Wolverine, Nightcrawler, Emma Frost, Cyclops, Beast, and Professor Xavier. The kid's family takes the coffin to the grave, and everyone gathers around to say their final goodbyes. Professor X can't help but listen in on people's thoughts and hears what everyone is thinking about. The young boy wasn't even a part of the X-Men, but after Wanda Maximoff destroyed the mutant gene on M-Day, the mutant population was decimated, going from tens of millions of mutants around the world to just under 200 mutants in total. Mutant lives mattered now more than ever, and each new death was devastating. Cyclops talks to the boy's father and thanks him for allowing his fellow X-Men to pay their respects. However, the father was annoyed by this and said his son was just a number to them, just another mutant name they could cross off the list of barely 200 mutants left alive in the entire world. Cecily Kincaid is curious to know how the boy died, but everyone was vague about the subject. Nightcrawler tells her he was killed in a car accident at a busy intersection, a very mundane and ordinary death. She wishes she could punch him in the face for getting himself killed in such a dumb way, when there are fewer than 200 mutants left in the entire world. An old man intrigues Professor X because he can't read his mind, but it turns out that it is actually Sebastian Shaw in disguise. Shaw says he didn't know the boy, but felt that his death deserved to be marked in some way. Multiple Man asks Beast why nobody is talking about breeding programs to increase the mutant numbers again, but McCoy tells him it's because there aren't enough of them left to have sufficient genetic material to repopulate. The mutant race is basically extinct, and there is nothing left to do. It's just a matter of time now. Logan tells Scott that it takes a situation like this, where you look death in the face, to make you appreciate just how precious life is. The events that led to the downfall of the mutant population began some time ago on Genosha, where Wanda Maximoff changed the entire world into something else. The X-Men fought to change it back to normal, and they succeeded, but at what cost? In the end, Wanda uttered 3 words, barely loud enough to be heard.
No more mutants.
Some mutants died that day when they lost their powers out of nowhere, but most of them survived and were now just normal people without any special powers. Wanda made the mutant gene disappear as if it never existed. Beast took it upon himself to try and find a solution to the problem and asked for help from some of the brightest minds on the planet, including Mr. Fantastic and Iron Man, but without any luck. He then went searching all around the world for others to help him, but everyone turned him down, including Dr. Doom, MODOK, Pandemic, Sugarman, and even Mr. Sinister. Eventually, he climbed one of the highest mountains in the world in search of the High Evolutionary and found him inside a giant fortress. However, Professor Wyndham tells him the same thing, that what Wanda did is magic, and there is no way to reverse it unless he finds Wanda herself. He tells Beast to accept the truth and not waste his time, but Beast refuses to accept the truth and visits Dr. Kavita Rao, a mutant geneticist. She created a cure for mutants that turns them back into normal people, but what good is a cure with no one left to use it on? She gives him access to samples of this cure and wishes him good luck. Beast finds an old abandoned camp called Neverland, which was part of the Weapon X program many years ago. He finds hundreds of files and information on mutants that were kept prisoners there. This place was nothing more than a torture camp where mutants were experimented on, and hundreds lost their lives. But Beast was not alone there. Dark Beast shows up and says he wants to help. Dark Beast is a twisted, murderous, inhumane, and sadistic genius who comes from another Earth, a world that was ruled by Apocalypse. He was his most valuable geneticist, experimenting on mutants and devoted to creating the fittest beings for Apocalypse. McCoy knew what Dark Beast was capable of and was reluctant to work with him, but he had no choice. Dark Beast brings him up to date with everything he was working on and makes McCoy relive his most recent memories and witness horrific and despicable things. Together they arrive at an abandoned nuclear plant, but inside they find an entire hidden base called Black Womb. This place was even more despicable than the last, where people used to experiment on mutant babies. They find old video files and pictures of the horrible things that used to happen there, and Beast says that even though he wants to save the mutant race, he'd rather die than do anything like that, and he'll make sure to kill Dark Beast as well. Mr. Sinister told Dark Beast about this place, and that there is another secret section deeper inside. This place was under SHIELD surveillance ever since the project had shut down, and it was suspicious that nobody was there to greet them. But when they enter the secret room, they find all the SHIELD soldiers butchered and hanged for display. Somehow Sinister came there before them, and left them a present, an old robot programmed to kill anyone on sight. They quickly deal with the robot, but the place was another dead end. The servers had been cleaned dry by Sinister, who took all the information for himself. The two beasts continue their work and analyze the bodies of several mutants who were depowered, but they all have the same thing in common. The mutant gene is completely missing from their DNA. Beast comes up with an idea and visits Forge in Dallas. All the heroes from alternate timelines retained their powers on M-Day, including Bishop, Cable, the Sugar Man, Marvel Girl, and Dark Beast. Forge built a machine that combines mutant-detecting cerebral technology with time travel. He then used readings from artifacts that came from various futures as a baseline to scan those timelines. But the results were shocking. Either these futures no longer exist, or they do, and there are no more mutants in them. This only angers Beast even more, who refuses to accept the truth and leaves. Later, he and Dark Beast visit Lucinda Guthrie and ask her for a favor. They want to take gene samples from her. Even though Lucinda is a normal human, she is the mother of several mutants that were part of the X-Men, and Beast hopes that her DNA has traces of the unexpressed X gene. While the two of them are talking, Dark Beast tricks one of her kids into drinking a blue serum, saying it will give him superpowers again. The serum is dangerous, however, and the young boy falls to the ground unconscious. This prompts McCoy to attack Dark Beast, and the two engage in a brutal confrontation. Lucinda surprises Dark Beast from behind and shoots him in the arm, and then McCoy knocks him to the ground unconscious. Beast says he is sorry for causing her family harm, and leaves again empty-handed. Now desperate and running out of options, Beast visits the Sanctum Sanctorum of Dr. Strange and asks him for help. Strange decides to show him something: the effects of Wanda's actions and the repercussions of her magic. McCoy asks Strange if the spell can be reversed, but he says that the spell has spread across the multiverse, flowing through everything, welded to all there is. If he were to even try to break the spell, all reality could implode as a result. Strange shows Beast the multiverse, infinite realities where other variants of himself are trying to do the same thing, undo Wanda's spell and bring back the mutant gene. Beast finally sees how all of these lives are on the same journey, approaching the problem from different places and angles, and he realizes just how narrow his own experience is. Beast decides to visit a small village in the country of Transia and buys an old clock from a street vendor. He sits down to take a break, and a woman who looks very similar to Wanda says hello. She tells him the clock he just bought is fake, probably made in China, and will likely break in a few days. The woman asks Beast if she can tell him a story. A man and his wife were fighting and screaming at each other, and the man says his wife always puts him down and he wishes she had no eyes if she sees so little good in him. The magic comb tingled strangely under his fingers, and he realized he'd said too much. But the words were already uttered, and they couldn't be unsaid. At that moment, his wife was struck blind, her eyes sealed over with smooth, unbroken skin. Furious with her husband, she grabbed the magic comb and wished for her husband to have 1,000 eyes, to see how foolish he actually is. Eyes sprouted all over the man, on his hands, his arms, his chest, everywhere. He turned into a monster even stranger and uglier than his wife. After blaming each other and arguing about whose fault it was, the husband grabbed the comb and wished that they just had 4 eyes between them once again. And the wish came true once again. The wife now had 3 eyes, and the husband had only 1 giant eye in the middle of his face. The man later returned to the sea and gave the magic comb back to the mermaid, who said she also has a magic earring if he wants. Beast wanted to continue talking to this strange woman he had just met, saying that she reminds him of someone, but she had to leave. He then left Transia and went back to Neverland, the mutant camp where hundreds of mutants were experimented on and eventually killed. He wanted to give all of them a proper burial and dug graves for all the dead bodies he could find, remarking that he gave the past its due, which is all you can do in the end, for the dead and for the past.